When you're looking at a 75-inch commercial-grade display, the first question most people ask isn't, how many pixels? But will this thing actually fit into my day-to-day workflow without turning the whole room into a headache? That's the hesitation I hear over and over in forums and on the phone with IT managers who have to balance budget, installation logistics, and long-term reliability. I spent a few days digging through the specs, watching unboxing videos, and reading through the handful of user comments that exist for the NEC C751Q. The link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What follows is my attempt to cut through the marketing language and give you a realistic picture of where this display lands in real-world use, where it shines, and where it could trip you up. First off, the C751Q is positioned as a large-format, ultra-high-definition solution for conference rooms, public spaces, and digital signage. The headline numbers 75 inches, UHD resolution, a sleek aluminum chassis make it look like the kind of screen you'd buy for a high-end broadcast studio. In practice, the biggest decision point is the environment you plan to put it in. If you're a corporate IT lead responsible for outfitting a 15-person boardroom with a single, wall-mounted canvas that can double as a video wall component, this model checks a lot of boxes. If, however, you are a small business that just needs a budget-friendly monitor for a couple of workstations, the price and the size may be overkill. One of the first practical strengths that shows up when you actually get the unit out of the box is the modular design. NEC markets the future-proof modular expansion as a way to add extra ports or upgrade the internal processor without swapping the whole panel. In the field, that means you can start with the basic HDMI and DisplayPort inputs, then later add a USB-C hub, or even a built-in streaming encoder, if you later decide to use the screen for live-stream town hall meetings. That flexibility is rare in the commercial segment, where most 75-inch panels are sold as a complete package with little room for upgrades. For an organization that anticipates scaling its visual communication tools, that modularity translates into a real cost saving down the line. The SpectraView Engine is another feature that gets mentioned a lot in NEC's own marketing copy. It promises accurate color reproduction and uniform brightness across the entire panel, which is crucial for graphic designers or brand managers who need to display high-resolution assets without worrying about hotspots or color shifts. In the limited user feedback that does exist, the few designers who have actually run color-critical work on the C751Q confirm that the panel holds its own against mid-range professional monitors. The upshot is that you can trust what you see on screen to be a fairly true representation of your files, which is a practical advantage when you're presenting to clients or stakeholders. On the flip side, the biggest practical weakness I uncovered is the sheer weight and mounting requirements. At roughly 115 kilograms, the C751Q is not something you can casually hang on a standard office wall. You'll need a commercial-grade wall mount, or a purpose-built floor stand that can handle both the weight and the thermal output. The installation manual emphasizes a reinforced steel bracket and recommends professional installation. For anyone who was hoping to DIY this in a small conference room, the additional labor cost can easily add a few $100s, something that isn't reflected in the product's price tag on Amazon. In other words, the value of the screen is partially contingent on the cost of getting it safely up on the wall. Speaking of thermal output, the unit does run a low-profile fan that you can barely hear at 3 meters, but it does kick in noticeably when you push a full 4K video at 60 Hz for extended periods. In a tightly sealed conference room with limited HVAC, you might notice the temperature of the wall rising by a couple of degrees after an hour of continuous playback. That isn't a deal-breaker for most setups, but it's a point to consider if your room is already on the warm side or if you have strict noise policies. Another common concern among buyers is cable management. The C751Q's back panel is fairly dense, with a mix of HDMI 2.0, DisplayPort 1.4, USB-C, and several legacy inputs. Because the design is sleek, There's little room for large cable bundles. You'll need to route the cables neatly through the mounting bracket, or a custom conduit. In large conference rooms where multiple laptops, media players, and streaming devices connect at once, a tidy cable solution can become a small engineering project. That said, the modularity previously mentioned does help. You can add a small external hub that consolidates the inputs before they hit the back of the panel, reducing the clutter at the source. Now, who should actually buy this display? If you're an organization that needs a 75-inch screen for high-impact presentations, digital signage, or collaborative work, has an existing conference room infrastructure that can support the weight and mounting requirements, values long-term upgradability, and wants a display that won't